Good afternoon from Prague. I am Martina Pecková-Černá, and I am greeting you from the Arts and Theatre Institute. It is our pleasure to welcome you to the Green Thursday series of international online discussions with Czech and foreign guests from the field of performing arts. We are here every fourth Thursday at the same time, 3 p.m. Central European Time, with diverse moderators and guests ranging from dance and theater artists to curators, culture managers, and theorists.
The overall topic, "The show must go on, offline," was chosen so that we can address the common theme of sustainability and the performing arts from many perspectives. These include the response of the performing arts to the state of the environment and the COVID pandemic, as well as the field's emerging strategies to address urgent social changes and paradigm shifts in culture and in our societies. These discussions are organised by the International Cooperation Department and in collaboration with the European projects Create to Connect, Create to Impact, and the Central European Performing Arts Network, PACE V4. They are also linked to the main theme of this year's Theatre Night in the Czech Republic, which is sustainability. They also correspond with the arts and theatre institutes, culture, and the climate activities which serve as a communication platform for public and independent cultural organisations in the Czech Republic on global environmental challenges.
Hi, this is Jiří Šimek, moderator of upcoming discussion. Unfortunately, we had some technical complications during our Zoom discussion, so we had lost the beginning where our guests introduced themselves. So I decided to write down a small introduction by myself, and here are short bios of our wonderful and inspirational guests. I hope that you'll enjoy it. Savas Paczalides is theatre professor at Aristotle University and also at the Drama School of National Theatre of Northern Greece. His areas of teaching, research and publishing include experimental theatre, ethnic theatre, ancient Greek drama and its revivals, theatre criticism, theatre festivals, theatre theory and theatre adaptations. He is the author of 14 books on theatre and performance criticism and theory, and co-editor of another 13 more. His two-volume study, Theatre, Society, Nation, from 2010, was awarded first prize for Best Theatre Study of the Year. In addition to his academic activities, he writes theatre reviews for various e-journals. He is currently the president of the Hellenic Association of Theatre and Performing Arts Critics, and he is also member of the curators team of Forest Festival, organized by the National Theatre of Northern Greece, and the editor-in-chief of Critical Stages of the International Association of Theatre Critics. Nella H Kornetwa is an independent performer and performance maker. After graduation at Janáček Academy of Music and Performing Arts, Czech Republic 2010, and Norwegian Theatre Academy, Norway 2013, she was Dance Web 2014 scholarship holder in Impulsdance, Vienna. She is the artistic leader of TIDS Performance Group based in Czechia and Norway. TIDS create audiovisual physical performances that focus on themes and emotions that the audience can relate to directly. They explore the possibilities of hybrid theatre forms between play and choreography, sound, image and body. In 2020, Kornetwa was nominated for Thalia Award in Alternative Theatre category. The Divadelní noviny Awards 2020 nominated Kornetwa and TIDS in categories Dance and Physical Theatre for the production of the year for Humor, Carcinogenic Romance, and in Alternative Theatre for the performance Batman, which she eventually received. Martinas Petrikas is an associate professor at the Faculty of Communication at Vilnius University. His research interests include Lithuanian and Central European theatre, with a special emphasis on its historical, political and social implications, as well as the international dimension of its development. Martinas has published articles and made numerous presentations at conferences on the reverberations of historical experience in contemporary theatre, as well as on 20th century relations between Lithuanian and Polish theatre. His key publication is a contribution to the collective monography, Post-Soviet Lithuanian Theatre, History, Identity, Memory, and that was published in 2014. Those are our wonderful guests. And now I'm going to paraphrase my first question that we have lost in original footage. So, online environment is built up in a way that it is as frictionless as possible. Everything has to be clean, smooth, simply frictionless in order to capture our attention and point it to intended idea or place. Everything is few clicks away. You can do everything you need from your toilet, for example. In contrast, theater is everything but not frictionless. You have to plan your visit, you have to tolerate other people, you have to pay for it, you are risking that you won't like it and you can't turn it off, and so on and on. So, why to go to theater in 21st century if you have that smooth, beautifully designed online alternative? Can we view this friction nature as advantage? If so, why? What this overcoming of friction brings to us?
Anyway, so Nella, what is it for you, or how do you view this? Why is it advantage, or it is disadvantage, and so on?
I think at least I can talk always mainly for myself, both as an artist and as an audience. I think it is an advantage for me as a person because there is more things that actually occupy my attention and the choice of what I can look and think and feel is actually at the same time broader, but also at the same time like more compressed by the shared experience. Like broader in a sense that I am basically, if I come to the theater or venue and I start to watch a piece, I can decide what I focus on. So I am somehow the editor or the director of my attention myself. Am I like thinking about how I sit in the seat? I can choose what to look at. I can choose to look at what the creators possibly wanted me to look at, but I can also start to look at the light rig or on the watch of the other person next to me. So in that sense, it's broader, but at the same time, by all the senses, I think I'm more like the experience, at least for me, is kind of heightened. And I think like I focus actually better towards this, and I think it also like it gives me different space. For example, for the questions that like I really didn't hear Martinas. I almost didn't hear, so I'm sorry. I heard. Yeah, and Savas, I heard the end, which I think like of your presentation, and I love those, like the when you talk about the questions that we have to face right now. And I would slightly disagree, just that I think like art and theater, I think it was always putting questions in focus, but I think right now there is like multiplication and diversity of those questions that are burning, because we are, I think it is also probably connected with like democratizing, I don't know how you say that in English, like, you know, that there is like more people can get a voice to talk or raise those questions. And I actually really love about the art that they can the questions can be posed but not really answered, because then we are at least giving a space for our audience, and not necessarily only in performance or theater or dance, but in art in general, like that they need to pose this question for themselves and hopefully try to search together with creators for the answers. Yeah, but I like to go back to you, Jirka. I think it is advantage, at least for me, exactly because of the choice I can do as a person, sharing that experience, and also like we are social human beings, and it is a social situation, and I love the part that comes also before that and after that. Like it's not we come together to experience something that someone prepared in some ways for us, but we also probably have the need to talk or like gather and feel that we are in it together, so it is not such a lonely experience. Because I think like also if you like, again, like maybe that topic we will touch later upon, like to stay only home, locked down with a computer, looking at also like very good art, I think it still brings a sensation of loneliness and being in it alone, even though you share it. Again, like we have sharing buttons, but I don't think the sharing buttons and online sharing is the same as the physical one in the space.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on, and I can imagine that you want to react, I just want to give in my personal story, because like I don't know if you know, but when I was young, I went to the psychologist and they told me that I'm hyperactive. So the idea is that I have problem to be focused, on one thing for a long period of time. And you said that in theater you are able to be more focused, or maybe for longer periods of time. And it's totally the same with me. Actually, it's probably in theater where I, for the first time, was focused maybe for 2 hours in a row without any problems. And I just want to suggest. So I think that one of the things why it works like theater, at least for me, is that there is this this agreement between inside of the society, which is pretty abstract. We simply decided when we will meet in the theater, we will just sit and we will watch and we will be quiet and we will respect each other. But at the same time, we are still sharing something. So maybe is there something, what I just explained or said, that also makes theater the place where we are focused and maybe we share more? And also the last idea, maybe I want to suggest before we will move on, is that when am I let's say watching a movie on Netflix, let's say nowadays, even though I don't want to, what I usually do is that I also have my phone on. There's also my children next to me. My wife is, somewhere and she's doing some noise, whatever. And I'm clicking, from the movie to the phone and so on and so on. So I'm a little bit distracted all the time. So what is your take on it? We can start with Martinas.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this follow-up on the attention issue. In fact, I would go even further. I would even say that theater actually hijacks our attention, and it hijacks ourselves, as a matter of fact, physically. Because if we think of a visit to the theater, we actually surrender ourselves for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 6 hours, and things like that. And we are sort of forced to sit throughout the performance, since it's a social convention. Well, being a critic, sometimes I walked out of the production before it ended, but it's only me, and being a critic, a professional, I could afford to do that. But basically, it's a breach of the convention. So we are sort of agreeing to this convention of being hijacked voluntarily, and that sort of focuses our attention on one single thing, which is difficult in the current informational environment, as you just said. because we're everywhere at once if we are at home. However, and this is to follow up what Savas said, the contemporary human identity is also connected to this idea of being a cyborg, of having different various technological attachments and extensions to ourselves and to our body, as the matter of fact. What you just said about experiencing a film with a phone in one hand, another device in the other hand, it's a typical contemporary experience where we are sort of divided between different worlds, between different levels, and being on them simultaneously, which is absolutely, in terms of existential experience, that's absolutely unprecedented possibility. There were no generations before us who had the possibility to be simultaneously in several places at one time. In fact, I see Hella's screen twice now because Hella is probably connected on 2 devices. So there you go. We have single Hella on 2 devices present twice simultaneously. So phenomenologically speaking, that's something very different. And we have to take into account this different being in the world that we have now.
Yeah, but I think if I can just interject in there, I think with this cyborg body, what comes also is that it's not necessarily our decisions. I think here is like a big question of also, I think, addiction and how we are actually guided. Because I think in a lot of times, like, because I know this with the phone and looking and attention, I don't necessarily think it is you deciding consciously to do that. You know, that there is very often, like, especially with the social media, that you are basically addicted to do so, and you get also like the rush and highness of doing multiple things at the same time, because we are not only with our phones, but before that, like, to multitask is praised in our society, especially in capitalism, because more you can do, more you are. So in a way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's absolutely right. And we do have the examples of the theater productions that are virtual, that are flexible, bendable, dependent on the reactions coming from the virtual audience. The name Marion Stiffer comes to mind. She's a young French artist who just made this, well, it was in spring, who made this semi-virtual production of Jeanne d'Arc, where it's dependent on the flow of the reactions coming from the audience via the social media. So the theater does react to the immediate reality in that sense, and it is actually forced to react in time of pandemic.
Yeah, we also, like, I forgot to mention that, like, I'm artistic leader of TITS performance group, and we have exactly, like, one of our productions is that's called actually Cult of Busy. Is simultaneously you see, like, dance, visual performance in front of your eyes, but at the same time the whole audience is connected with all the performers at any moment on social media, and they comment and live another simultaneous life. So they like, audience is of course deciding if they want to watch the real performance and bodies in front of them, or they want to basically already multiply them, talk, comment, and affect, and have, like, basically another life monster is happening on at the same time in totally other world, which is both like we are physically together, but we are also together somewhere totally else, with a possibility to even invite the other people who are not in that space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So maybe Savas, if you have something.
No, I don't know if you would like to raise the next question, or we continue like this. I mean, I would like to add my comments, but again,
you can comment and maybe shortly, and then we'll move on.
No, you go on with your question. I'll come back and just add to what Nella and Martinez just discussed. As we move on, I can do it.
So all of what we just said, and I want to a little bit come back, and I'm sort of surprised that I'm going to give this question so early in our conversation, but I think it's important. So we said that you are surrendering when you go to the theater, that you surrender your freedom, so to say. Actually, I'm also leaving theater performances if I don't like them, and I am taking it as my sort of like way how to communicate that it sucks and so on. So it's totally okay to leave, but usually I'm standing in, and so I'm surrendering myself. So I'm risking something. I spent money for it. I'm here with the other people. Maybe I can be scared what they think about me and so on. But when I'm on the screen of my phone, I can be naked and I can pretend that I'm having like serious discussion about something in my chat, And that's pretty safe, because if I don't like the discussion that is on chat, I can just leave, okay? Or so I can curate of what people thinks about me based on the craft of my editing video skills, let's say, when you are creating some kind of content about yourself on YouTube and so on. So you can really care about your image. So you are not surrendering to other people and so on. So can we right now try to imagine that, let's say, we are talking to a 16-year-old teenager, and we are trying to tell him why he should surrender himself, why he should risk that he will be judged, let's say, for example, and why he should spend his money for theater ticket. Savas?
Oh, yeah. That was an issue that we had to mention earlier. The age group we refer to as audience, that is one, because my daughter now has no idea, although I take her to theater, she feels much more comfortable online. So one, the audience of tomorrow will be a different audience. That's why I say we're developing a new genre online, and we're talking about two totally different things. Online spectacle, or whatever, call it whatever you want, and live theater. Also, we're talking about two different communities. We have to define the word community. I mean, if you go to a live, Martinez mentioned earlier, and you mentioned earlier how we go, we buy our ticket, we share, we breathe the same air with our person who sits next to us, and we try to live within a group, a community. We have to define what defines this live community. That is one. It's very important, because the feedback the actor or the actress gets from the particular community is very different from the community online. What is the community online? Who are there? Who make up this community? On the one hand, we have a virtual community of strangers online. People with a totally different understanding of what viewing and experience is. So if we differentiate the two communities, then we'll start talking about the quality of the experience. I mean, the extent of. I don't like the word surrender. I never surrender my freedom to a show. I always resist until the show wins my surrender. I never give it up. That's why, as a critic, I give the show 20 minutes and then I walk out. It's something that I follow, and I always tell my students, I have only 20 minutes to be convinced to surrender myself to the show, and then I go. So it's the communal, the community. For example, Nella presents in her hometown a show. She more or less has a general idea what this community is all about. The conventions, expectations, resistances, tolerance or tolerate, whatever. This online community for me is a little bit a kind of, it's a mirage. It gives me no energy. All these chat rooms and all these typed messages and all this stuff is, some people talk about virtual cosmopolitanism. Virtual. It's something that festivals, since I'm into the festival circuit myself, it's something festivals now flirt with. Because of short of money, they will develop this online festival cosmopolitanism because they will not be able to pay expensive productions anymore. Money, we run out. So we will use the internet now to create this virtual cosmopolitanism, that is this virtual community of strangers who come and go without, and no one knows their expectations. In other words, what I see here is a shift from the citizen to the cosmopolitan. From the citizen, a citizen is related to place. A cosmopolitan is related to space. So a virtual community is a spatial community. It's not a territorial community. And that's why I said from the very beginning, if we bring these two genres closer, we better not mix them up. Of course, technology was always part of theater. I mean, theater has this love-hate relationship with technology. It was like that from the very first day of theater. When we had the first scenographic stuff in Epitaurus, in the ancient Greek theater, people were mad because scenography was introduced, because it was something that distracting. It was kind of weakening the acoustics of poetry. People were going to theater to enjoy the word, poetry, not the spectacle. That's why Aristotle put spectacles at the very, very bottom of his criteria. Okay, so technology was there and people resisted. Gradually, they embraced it. The same thing happened all over again. I mean, technology, I mean, what people create technologically, theater people at first resist, they think twice, and then they embrace it. So if we are talking now about theater and technology and how they relate, of course they relate. But if we talk about digital theater, virtual theater, we talk about something else. We have to see how we relate the two, technology and theater. Of course, theater, we have to flirt and incorporate high technology. It's impossible to avoid it. And theater will remain theater. Bob Wilson, for example, Lepage, Castellucci, they all employ the highest technological things, and they still do theater. I'm not talking about this theater. I'm talking purely, not even streamlined theater. I'm not talking about that. It's another thing. This is a bastard version of real theater.
Yep.
Streamlining for me, I hate, because I lose the aesthetics of liveness.
Yeah.
Something that was not meant to go online. But if we talk about a show that is meant to go online exclusively from the very beginning, that is a different genre.
Definitely.
It's a totally different genre.
Thank you, Savas. Maybe I want to give a word to Martinas, but before I will do, maybe can I try to just remind you the 16-year-old teenager before you will start talking?
All right.
It's okay. It's okay, Savas. Martinas can move on.
Right.
Sure.
I'll come back to the teenager at some point. Absolutely, I will. But I couldn't agree more with Savas.
Of course.
I mean, my point is that one should not confuse two different things: a theater in the analogous way and the theater that is meant to be experienced online. These are two very different things, which is not to say that the latter is not worthwhile. It by all means is. However, these two should not be even compared, because this is a very distinct and very different experience. And I think some terminology might come handy here, because we have this idea of mediatization. We have the indirect mediatization, which actually mean, in theatrical context, that would actually mean that the performance is being filmed, recorded, put out to the internet, and that's it. We can experience it that way. But the direct mediatization means something different. That means that the performance or the spectacle or the experience is created purely for the virtual kind of experience, using internet as a creative tool, using the interactivity as a special aesthetic, and that creates the essence of this mediated performance. Usually these mediated performances, they don't even have this physical shape. It exists online, and I have these examples about the productions that are unique and unrepeatable, because the core feature of them is the interactivity and the reactions coming from the virtual audience. So that's something completely different and incomparable with the live theatrical experience that we have in conventional theaters or in the conventional sense. Coming to the teenager issue, I guess the teenager has to be explained that what theater does evolve. We do have the classical forms of the theater that are important. Let's say, well, the first thing is the tradition, of course, the convention, the huge cultural tradition. However, as Savas mentioned very, very pointedly, theater has always embraced the development of the technology, and it just came to my mind this, well, by the end of the 19th century, theater was actually used to promote the idea of electricity. People were somewhat afraid to use electric power at their homes. They were thinking that it will kill them. So the theater was used to promote this idea. The theater buildings in the capitals of Europe were illuminated nicely to show that it's good, it's useful, it could be used for safely. So maybe the theater can do the same with the virtual reality, and it actually does. These couple of months, more than a half a year actually, shows that theater makers are embracing new ways and new channels of communication with their audiences so eagerly. That's important. And my personal experience of the theatrical experience of the pandemia was like that of the kid in the candy shop. I mean, there was so many theater available over the internet. I mean, I could jump one evening from Metropolitan Opera to Schaubühne in Berlin and see the things going on there. I mean, it was incredible for the theater person, just like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Nella, maybe.
Yeah, there is a lot to comment on, but I think I will go for the teenager.
Okay.
Because it's interesting question. But I think like I would go strategically on it. I think I would suggest to the teenager that this is actually super special VIP situation they have opportunity to experience because this they will never feel or see online. This is not possible to see. Like, so there is like, we are offering special experience that you can have and come to. I would also say that probably it would be clever to bring those people even earlier than 16, so they get to feel it and used to. And also I think I would again say that you know the world, and you even now as a 16-year-old teenager, you are used to and you're at ease on your phone, but you start to panic as soon as you go outside and meet somebody, and you probably most likely, at least for next couple of years, if we don't become total cyborgs, you need other people in order to survive. So this is actually a safe environment where you can start to practice your social skills and the social meetings. And so because there are exactly a couple of those social unwritten rules, what we can do or not do, so you can, you know, practice being laughing and ridiculing the thing that you don't like because you're not used to it, or see how your fellow human beings are behaving and seeing how do they smell. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I still think that as the society is now, we still need each other for the future. So maybe that's why it's nice to also meet each other in the physical space.
Can I add something to what Nella said? Just an experience. I was in a festival show, and I was in the fourth row, and there was this young boy, roughly 15 or 16, sitting in front of me. And that is in the third row, just 2 meters away from the bodies of the actors. And this young boy put out his mobile and watched all the show through his mobile. In other words, he felt more comfortable with the mediated presence of the body. In other words, he virtualized the body in order to feel at home for 2 hours. And I found, the light was blinding me and I was really angry, but I found it fascinating. And I wrote an article on that when I said, my God, it was very inspiring. He was 15 years old and his eye never got in touch directly to the, in contact with the body of the actor. So I guess for this 16 years old, virtuality is an extension of their ego experience. Virtuality is not something alien, all right? So even if we take them to a live show, for them liveness is totally different from at least from my understanding of liveness. What is live? I guess these young kids were born into technology and that they are spoken by technology. It's like being born in language and you are spoken by language before you speak language. So the same thing, technology speaks them. They don't speak technology, it speaks them. So for them, what is natural is what is unnatural for us, or what is strange for us. And I'm talking about the kids who are 14, 15, who will take over theater in 10 years. So if we project into the near future, I'm sure this 16 years old we are talking about will give us a totally different theater than the one we know now.
I just want to react that also, like, for me, there is a question of motivation, because that's a wonderful story with this, like a guy that looked at the live performance through the phone, because I think there is, like, I question just the motivation, that I think it will be even more complicated, that probably the comfort comes with the knowledge and like feeling like, okay, my hand and phone are basically one already. But also I think there is this thrill of like why he did it, like because it is life, there is a potential of something extraordinary to happen that I will have documented on my phone, so I can come to it anytime or share it again in this weird virtual space. That I had this experience in this place, as we had this. So I think that's also like kind of combining how the virtual world, because you know there is like a lot of sensations that are going viral in that space are based on documentation of a live event. You could then maybe flirt with the idea live performance that goes somehow weird.
Right, that's an excellent point. As a matter of fact, sorry to jump in, but it just came to my mind that it's about the control as well. You see, we began our discussion with these notions of attention grabbing, of hijacking, of surrendering, and these are the circumstances where theater controls its audience as a community or as a single member. When we have a theater online in its mediated forms, it is we, the audience, who control the theater. I mean, I can fast forward the production if it's pre-recorded. I can go back when I want. I can pause it and make a cup of tea. I can switch it off completely if I am displeased. And that's control, isn't it? That's phenomenologically speaking, that's totally different to something that we have in live form.
And Martinez, I don't know if I may add a kind of postscriptum to what Martinez just said, that Nella, that the virtuality or mediation is provides a kind of safety blanket for someone who refuses to face life directly. This new generation faces life through something. Through something, whatever that something is, a mobile, Google program or whatever. So there is no direct contact with the real. That is why the main question that theater has to answer in 21st century is what is real? And I guess when I saw this young boy, this young boy was manipulating reality through mediation. I was watching him coming with close-ups, bringing the faces of the actors closer to his mobile, and then focusing. He felt that he was in control. Is what Martinez just said, that the live thing was not in control of him. He was in control of. He had the illusion that he was in control.
Yeah, Nella, please quickly.
Just very quickly, I think it is also for me what I said about this choice of theater while live experience. Actually, maybe there is a similarity to that boy to me, because I decided, or not necessarily, intellectually, but I decide what I focus on. And this boy also made the same choice in the live experience through his experiences with his package that he's carrying in the life, that his framing and looking at the life experience was through something he knows. I think,
I remember what I wanted to say, and luckily it's relating to all of what you said, because I asked this question because I'm the last, and Nella I think is last generation who spent the half of the life without connection to the internet and half of the life in digital space and online. So we are sort of like weird transitioners, and all of the guys who came after us started to living in the digitalized world with the smartphones and so on. And that's pretty interesting because, as you said, and that was really great point, when the generation of the new theater artists, when they will arrive, this new generation, I think it will be pretty fascinating because they will probably come up with very new solutions and maybe new things that we even can't think of. But what I think that I still want to a little bit stick to the 16-year-old and because this is a problematic situation, even to explain something to somebody or to, okay, now listen to me, I will explain you why you should go to the theater without phone and your phone will be turned off and so on, So I'm thinking how to sort of we as a theater artist or critics or researchers, how we should work with the digital space, how we should act and how we should perform in the digital space in order, and that's my construction, maybe you can disagree, in order to gain the beliefs of new generation, how to embrace it in order to stay approachable, in order to make this 16-year-old guy with the phone tell him, believe us, this is a safe space, this is a laboratory where you can test it, and maybe then you will be able to face the real world in better manner, way easier, and so on. Does this, what I just tried to explain in a pretty complicated way, relate to you somehow? Martinas?
Well, interestingly enough, it was 2016 when in the UK the research was conducted, and the topic of this research was the impact of mediatization of the theater on the audiences. So basically, there was this rolling out of mediatization of the productions throughout the UK, and the theaters were really worried about how it will impact the live attendance to their production. And the research, which was conducted by questioning the potential audience members, revealed that the initial digitalized or mediatized experience of the theater did not negatively impact their live attendance. In fact, in opposite. After experiencing the performance online, people were more willing to experience it in a conventional form. Moreover, the research also revealed that the virtual audience is much more diverse in comparison with the conventional audience and conventional theaters, meaning that the younger people and less advantaged people are able to experience theater in its mediatized form. Maybe.
Can I just one question?
Go on.
Was pre-recorded performance or live streamed?
These were both. These were both. In some instances, these were pre-recorded, and sometimes the live stream. But in any case, these were productions made for the physical space, not specifically for the virtual.
Because I think it changes a lot. Also, like, was it for free, or people had to sign up to come and watch it?
Yeah,
those.
It's a very important variable, but basically it was much more affordable. Even in those cases when it was not for free, it was considerably cheaper than to buy the ticket for the regular production. And actually, the research revealed that the streaming was corresponding to the income level of the household. The more streaming, less income, meaning that in that way, theater becomes much more accessible. Theater in the internet is evidently much more accessible than the conventional way. But my point was at this point was that virtual experience does not interfere with the live experience. One experience should not feel endangered by the another. And as I said before, these are simply uncomparable things at some point, especially when we speak about the productions that were meant for virtual space.
So what you just suggested, so what you just suggested, if am I right? So what you are saying is that maybe the digital space can be more than anything else sort of extension of the theater, or am I understand right? And
well, it can make theater much more accessible, and it can increase the reaching out of the theater and theater making.
Okay.
Both in terms of the institutional theater and independent companies.
Savas?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I don't know if you have from your home countries any data concerning the people, the age groups that watched all these thousands of streamlined shows, theater shows. I'll talk about my own home country here in Greece. Those who watched streamlined shows were people, regular theater goers. In other words, theater gained nothing. It didn't gain any new audiences, young audiences from these streamlined shows. And this is interesting that young people never turned to an online theater production. They had their own really purely virtual spectacles to watch. At least that was the result of the research done here at home to find out who was really watching. And unfortunately, young people, I mean, 15, 16, 17-year-old, rarely watched productions by, major theater international groups.
Thank you, Nella.
I just want to connect to this because I think it also connects to what Savas, I think, mentioned before that I actually also share. I also very much am close to hating like pre-recorded theaters or live streamed theaters without thinking about the form or framing of they are doing, like they need to be done for that. And I think at this stage, it for me makes sense, this research very much, because it is like I can barely stand it, and I love theater, and I very often also love those creators who are doing it, but I get like if Savas gives a live performance is 20 minutes, my online attention is definitely much less.
Yes.
And if the first 2-3 minutes the camera is of like a live streamed performance is shaking and there is happening nothing, I am discouraged. Unless I have a personal connection or personal agenda, which the new audience will not have. So it for sure cannot like attract when these forms are fighting with a high value production of Netflix, HBO, where it is done for the matter. And I'm thinking like we are also in the transition period. I think we are getting there, and like also those live streams and pre-recorded shows are getting better with like the experiences that they get, or like I seen a pretty amazing live show on Zoom, but that was done purely for the Zoom with all the Zoom qualities. It was actually, probably Savas knows about them. I think they've been Greek artists, and I forgot unfortunately their name now. But but that was exactly.
I talking about Antigone.
Yeah.
By
Yes.
Eli Papakonstantinou. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
I was one of the. Yeah, I was on the audience.
But that's totally different because they really squeezed what they could from the form of that, what they've done, and it was done for that. That's why it worked.
Exactly.
And I think that you brought up maybe another topic that I want to talk about, which is sort of like the theatrical thinking, or how theater artist thinks, or how the thinking of theater artist is formed by the way of working, rehearsing, and so on. And I think I totally agree with you, because like I have my personal experience, because I was invited with my performance to Berlin for a festival, and it was cancelled obviously, but they decided to continue with it, and they asked me if I want to do the stream for them from Prague. I said yes, and the fun fact about it that it was two times more expensive than and if I would go to the Berlin, you know, which was pretty absurd, because they paid for the Prague venue. You know, I told them that if I'm going to do it, I need you know, the whole crew, I need the cameraman, I need all of the equipment and so on. This is pretty funny. So streaming, like, I mean, at least what I consider good streaming costs money. It's not cheaper. It's way more expensive, you know. And also the fun fact in Czech Republic that most of the streams of theater that are done in Czech Republic, there are small not all the time, but many times it's because of the grants, you know, because, you know, you have to finish what you applied for the grant, and in order not to give the money back to the institution, you have to do something. So many of the streams were more or less done for the money, which is crazy, but it's like that anyway. So I did this stream for Berlin, and what I decided to do, and I had the opportunity to do it because it is a long monologue and dancing, you know. So it was possible to play the whole thing for camera, and I was all the time in contact with the camera, you know, and everything was done in this way. Even the quality of the sound was so good that I also suggested that they can just listen to the monologue, you know, people that they don't have to watch it and so on. So there were some opportunities how to do it, but that was mainly because of the structure and for the way how the particular performance is done, and that it was transferable, you know. But there is a whole range of the performances that aren't transferable, because like you know, it's based on a situation on stage, on a space, and so on and so on. But anyway, so as you said, there are some theater artists who decided to work in the Zoom in this new environment, but they also bring in maybe the way how they think to this new medium from the theater, what they gained from the theater, from how they, you know, creating their pieces and so on. So and you can be really personal right now. It doesn't have to be anything like, you know. So how do you, or what is the value, or what is the added value of theater artists or theater creators? I can suggest something like, you know, as me personally, I am working with the rhythm, I'm working with my body, I'm working with my voice and so on. And in order to do that, I have to be sort of professional for it. So I have to research it and so on. Maybe that could be the ground where we can start. So what do you think is the value? Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understand your question. To be honest.
It's not question. It's more than anything else. Like, or what is the value in? Okay, so I will frame it as a question. So in 21st century, what is the value in theatrical thinking, or you know, what we can sort of like, if we can extract some kind of principles out of the creative processes in theater and so on, and maybe just to transfer them to new medias and so on. So what is the value, or what you value on it, or what you learned personally?
Yeah, I guess a theater is trying to reposition itself, just like society. I mean, so theater reflects the social body. It's no different. It has always been like that. It's a mirror. It mirrors what's going on around it. So I guess theater is in a period of, it tries to redefine its aesthetics, also its new acting methods. It tries to rediscover the bodies on stage, to redefine the bodies, to redefine gender, to redefine writing, to redefine human relationships. That's why I said that theater now tries to rediscover itself along the lines of a new world. That is one thing. Also, talking about, I'll go back to the 16 and 17-year-old kids. These kids have a totally different sense of time and space in relation to their parents. Time and space that define theater do not apply to the logic of these young people who understand of space and time purely virtually. And what I see now, taking into consideration the economic situation that will be very, very tough on this generation for the next 10 years after the pandemic, it will be very, very difficult. These young people will look for cheaper ways to make art, look for space. And the internet offers them space for free or with minimum of money. They won't have to go out to Prague or to Oslo or whatever and pay tons of money to rent space, do their own art. So there will be, and that I find it very dangerous, there will be an uprooting of theater art. I always believe that art flourishes from bottom going up, not the other way around. I mean, I do not believe in rootlessness art. I don't think that, or what, you know, this traveling art, many times I have questions with this traveling art that has no point of reference. You need the point of reference in order to grow. If you go online, and this new generation will go online to save money, to find an audience, and since for them, their relation with technology is very friendly, they will create a new spectacular world, a totally different world than the one we are talking about. As for the other theater, the more traditional analog theater, I'm sure that there, I think, what we will experience is the reinforcement, the empowerment of theater trusts. Only big companies will survive, and what I'm afraid is that we'll see independent theater artists disappearing from view due to lack of money. Governments are not, at least European governments that I know, are not willing to support, generously support independent artists. And these people who maintain and renew theater will gradually either be absorbed by national theaters, by big corporations, and that, I guess, is my main fear concerning the day after in relation to conventional theater. It will become more conformist, etc., which we already see that happening.
Nella, go on.
I just want to react on this with a hope that Savas won't be like as right now. Savas is right, but I hope it won't be.
I hope so too. I hope so too, Nella.
Yeah,
I hope so too.
You know, we have fights to do, and for example, because those are systematic problems that we will need to face even more probably in the future. But for example, just to give a positive feedback, for example, Norway is very generous towards younger generations of artists coming. Also knowing from my experience, like I just graduated, and a year after that I got support to create multimedia performance, even though no one fucking knew who I am. Mm-hmm. I had no connections to any big names and artists. It was based on the idea that they found worth supporting. And of course, it is like Norway also is not like a pink, living on a pink cloud, and not everything is working, of course. But there are systems, and I hope, which come, of course, like again, problematic with the oil money. That's why you know, Norway can have this system. But I hope that those systems will be also broken. For example, this also in Czech Republic, you know, with artists doing the live streams, because they are obliged to finish their shows within the fiscal year. It's ridiculous. Again, like Norway here is not so rigid. Therefore, it gives artists freedom to decide what to do. but I like to also talk about values. That's just comment towards Savas, that there are a couple of places where it can work, and I hope we can learn in Europe and possibly world how to go further.
Mm-hmm. And
but,
before, do you want to say something more?
I have just like about the values, but that's maybe if somebody wants to react on this, then
because before we will move on, I just want to say something, because I want to because what you said, that there is the problem with supporting of art, and how to give support to independent groups and small arts, so that we can go from the bottom up, not backwards, and so on. I think that's pretty important, what I just said, because like that's sort of our that's what we have to do as a theater creators. We have to maybe, and that's why I'm asking those questions. We have to sort of explain why we are valuable, in order to create the political will to have more funding, or more clever funding. That's also important, not just more, but clever funding, because that's very important. So that's maybe what I'm trying to talking about, so what is the value of ours, or what we can add to this 21st century situation? And before I will give word to Martinas, I also want to say something, because I just realized that recently I seen documentary, and it was about the ancient military of Greeks. And there was one artist who felt he wanted to see, what is happening during the war. So he went with the army, and he seen how they are communicating for the far distances, and the system how they done it. The armies, was very complicated and unreliable. And since he didn't have the army context and so on, he was just artist, and he was just there and he was just observing. So he, within 2 days, he created new way how to communicate for far distances. It was way better, and it was mostly because of the other context, So I am here also suggesting. So again, and maybe I want to come back a little bit, what we can add to the mankind, to the society, how we can again, establish the reason for societies to have art that is happening in the physical space, not in the virtual space.
Right, these are all very big questions. Sorry to jump on, Nella.
No, I just have like because it's connected to what you're asking, and also with this state funding, Jirka, that I unfortunately think that I have like a lot of ideas about the values, and like I believe in them strongly, but unfortunately I am a little bit afraid that these are not the same values that will necessarily be shared and appreciated by state bodies, because like for me, like value of live performances and theater is also or lies in the that it promotes basically independence and independent thinking, and which you don't necessarily want, because it is, a little bit of course it is a part of the entertainment, but also it learns you to, for example, not satisfy all your needs, and let you, because it is questioning, because it is bringing those uneasy questions that we as a society needs to face, which I think are very important and great things about theater and art, but not necessarily like depending on what who is in power. But this not necessarily might need to be supported, like with Poland, like there is so many independent artists talking about values and posing questions that are totally against the Polish government, and the government, like, then of course from their standpoint will not increase or change. So it is like there is a little struggle in there. But this
And-
is, for example, for me, a value, like a strong one. You know?
Definitely. And I just want to add just a small thing. This situation, this pandemic is actually really great opportunity how to sort of what you just described, make it more important. And that's because, the situation of many artists started to be like very bad. And that's actually reason why artists or the artistic society started to organizing itself. So all of the artists in Czech Republic, and I can observe it around myself, starting to be sort of the citizens of the artistic, society. And that's super important. Suddenly, artists in Czech Republic understands why it's important to have association of independent theater and so on. And that's actually very important, so this idea of citizenship and being active in promoting your needs and your ideas is very important. And what is happening in Czech Republic is this, so the artistic community is being, glued together because we have same problems. And actually in Czech Republic, it worked out pretty well in comparing to the past, the fact that we were able to organize and so on. So I just want to say that Nella, you are exactly right, but that's the exact reason why we should and why we need to be organized and being citizens, in a sense. And I'm sorry, I want to give a word to Martinas now.
My suggestion would be just a follow up to what was just said, because it all boils down. If we speak about the added value, or the basic value for that matter, is the social responsibility that the theater art has towards itself and towards the society that feeds it. Let's put it that way. And this social responsibility can be achieved or expressed in several different ways. For instance, the pandemic showed that theater artists, at least in Lithuania, were really engaged in upkeeping the people who were confined to their homes. I mean, the ballet artists were doing yoga on Zoom or on YouTube platforms. It's not art, evidently, but still it upkeeps the spirits, right? It maintains the link between the audience and the theater artist. France was full of this kind of projects, for that matter. In terms of the social responsibility, I also would include the broadcasts of pre-recorded performances as well, as a matter of fact. Of course, it's not the same experience, but still, it's very nice for someone who is really bored at home among its four walls to see a nice show from the, say, 80s from Metropolitan Opera, totally free, rather good quality. I did it myself, for that matter, and I liked it. Well, it was interesting. Mm-hmm. So this social responsibility for in these kind of uneasy days, how much more important is something that upkeeping something that Jacques Rancière calls the senses. I mean, the critical attitude. Usually everyone calls for consensus, and Jacques Rancière says we need dissensus to be democratic, to be critical, to be aware of things that are happening. So the arts and theater in particularly has this capacity to create a dissensus, to infiltrate a doubt on something that seems very self-evident. So that's a value.
Yep. Savas?
Yeah, can I add something to our discussion here? I think the first time in theater's history that theater itself is facing an invisible opponent. In the old days, theater had its opponent. It was a visible opponent. It was a cardinal and general and dictator. Now, what we experience with the pandemic is that 8 billion people were orchestrated by a kind of global director to do the same things at the same time. In other words, we experience our smallness. We became aware of our smallness. I felt as a person disempowered because I couldn't see the opponent to go out and punch him. In other words, what theater, 21st century theater, has to face for me is a very difficult task of locating the source of evil. I find it very scary. It's this pandemic experience was a sweeping experience. Just it kind of showed us where we belong, and it showed us who is the boss, who is in control.
Nature.
History, ever. First time in history. And I guess the major challenge of theater artists, and they are doing very well to unite, and they are doing very well to commit themselves, to glue together, as you just said, is otherwise what this culture is driving us is to become loners, in front of our computers. And by being loners, and we will be loners, I'm very pessimistic, we are very vulnerable. The computer gives us the illusion of freedom. It is not freedom, it's slavery. We are lonely. And okay, whatever I give you in chat, so what? I'm still lonely. I'm still on my own. And technology you see e-shopping now, e-learning now, everything is e. Nothing is live. So if you do everything electronically, the communal spirit, the togetherness, get-togetherness, camaraderie, help each other, everything will disappear, evaporate. Because if you don't grow up with these ideals, no one will teach you how to experience them, practice them. And that's why, and since theater is a communal art, it's a teamwork. Even if a solo performer still needs the audience to become, a team. So I'm afraid that's why I kept saying from the very beginning that going through this transition period, theater has to redefine and reposition itself vis-a-vis a world that is far more complicated, far more dangerous, and far more powerful than any world in the past. That's my, it sounds a little bit pessimistic, but I guess I'm still lucky. We lock down my psychology. So, I'm very angry. I'm very angry because I'm deprived. And I see how easily my freedom is taken away from me. And I don't know whom to blame. Shall I go and punch the prime minister? So what?
Yeah. Thank you, Savas. Nella?
But I think that is exactly the thing that now we learned actually so much about our invisible enemy, that now the actually enemies became the same old ones. Because for example here in Norway, the organization and the safety measures were done so well against corona, and there is even a research that there is none of cases of, for example, transfer of the illness in any theater venue in Norway, yet still culture gets closed down as one of the first things, which is, then we are again clear who is, which probably connects with what Irka was asking before, how to explain the state bodies that what is the value and actually what is not the problem. Because there is for example right now all the shopping centers and everything is open. People are going crazy for Christmas presents, which is so much more dangerous than to go to theater, which was so strict on all the limitations, like keeping the people 2 meters apart, with precise seating, people almost not meeting each other, so all the social like a rules that we talked in the total beginning been broken. So
But
that again, like this, the same old enemies came against art, which is basically wrong misunderstanding from the state bodies and capitalism, because of course performances are creating other than monetary capital. It is bringing the values lay somewhere else, which I strongly believe, like even though you could like argue.
We are slowly getting to the end of our conversation. We still have, let's say, maybe 5 or 7 minutes or something like that. What you just suggested, Nella, is super important, and I want to sort of make like small summarization. So I feel that there is many reasons why theater is important in 21st century. I don't know if we said all of them. We certainly raised more questions than had some huge amount of answers. But I want just to say, and I like that you started talking about the monetization, because I really think that theater is not a good article for capitalism. I think that theater, more than anything else, is research and development, division of society. And I think that's one of the reasons, and we said why so, because it's important to maintain togetherness, to being able to be together, to maybe have a platform where we can discuss our things face to face as a citizens. And I think citizenship is one of the pretty important things in this sense, because when you are a citizen, you have to be active, but when you are in front of your screen, you are more than anything else passive, because you're sort of like just using your fingers and maybe just your brain, not the whole possibilities of your body. So I think that's maybe a good place to end it. We probably don't have no questions from our attendees, but maybe now you can raise them and you can put them to the chat, and maybe we can quickly answer them. But before we will end it up, I maybe want to go. I want to give a word to Savas. Maybe just quickly, if you have anything what you want to add, if you maybe want to share more of your angriness, you can.
Just to what Nella said very quickly. When I mentioned the pandemic, I also had in mind the mechanism that closed down the world. Not the pandemic itself. The pandemic itself is what it is, but this invisible mechanism that gave this order: stay at home. Yeah. And this is the invisible. That's a power. The Big Brother. This Big Brotherism that demonstrated its power. Using the virus this time. Next time it might be something else. But this is what it terrifies me. This Big Brotherism that is in a position to control my life. Anyway, full stop. I'm not gonna.
I just agree. I just thought that it became like later on for me, because in the beginning I totally agree, but later on I just realized, and also how I see that the society is, that we are again like pointing those fingers, some kind of a clear, more visible direction.
Yeah.
Yet I don't think that the Big Brother is going away.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Certainly won't go away, but on the positive side, it also encourages to experience new possibilities, new forms. And virtual theater, for lack of a better word at the moment, could be the escape route that once again would allow arts and the theater circumvent the barriers and barricades the reality erects. So maybe it's not only a limitation, maybe it's a possibility in there as well.
True.
And probably it won't like also erase the old analog one, because I still think like one of the values that maybe Savas also mentioned in the beginning is like the the presence and the questions, what is real, and I still think that there hopefully, I hope, will stay people who think that the real thing and the question of what is real is not gonna happen necessarily virtually. I think it will be like extension, and we will probably in the future have both. But I strongly believe that it will not erase the old analog one.
Mhm.
It's we are survivalists. We will survive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like we are really some kind of, I mean, theater is some kind of stone that you cannot move. Anyway, maybe just last thing, small comment, and then we are done. I think that, you know, also the emancipation of artists as a work, as a meaningful part of the society is very important. And actually it is just happening, you know, in Czech Republic, because, you know, when they were trying to give the support money to individuals in artistic fields, they realized that, you know, the apparatus actually don't really know what artist means. So it was really hard to like decide this guy is the artist and we should support him. So what is happening right now, they are trying to, you know, develop this idea for nation to understand, for the apparatus to understand what the artist is actually. So I think this is important, you know. So I think it's important to organize, to sort of, you know, talk and share why theater artist or theater making in 21st century is meaningful. And that was my idea, what I wanted to talk about. And I want to really thank you, because except Nella and me, we are strangers. And I want to thank you that we were able to manage this discussion in a very interesting and inspirational way. So I want to thank you, Savas.
Thank you for inviting me.
Nella.
Thank you. And nice meeting you both, all of you. And I hope we meet again virtually or in real life, whatever.
I hope so.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
You too.
And
Yes.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. And also thank you for